Welcome to ClueTrail, where true stories unravel one step at a time. From crimes and cults to survival stories and the downright strange, we follow the twists that lead to the truth. If you're enjoying the show, check out Patreon for bonus episodes and early access. Just search ClueTrail or hit the link in the show notes. And don't forget to follow, rate, or review the podcast. It helps more curious minds find us. Now, let's dive into today's case. It was a normal morning in Vienna on March 2nd, 1998. A 10-year-old girl named Natascha Kampusch left home, walking to school like she did every day. But she never arrived. For her family, it was every parent's worst nightmare. It became one of Austria's biggest missing persons cases. For 8 years, Natascha was gone. Hidden in a secret cellar beneath a seemingly ordinary house, while the world searched above ground. But when Natascha finally escaped, the story didn't end. Because surviving captivity was only part of what she had to endure. Today on ClueTrail, we follow the haunting story of Natascha Kampusch, a story of abduction, survival, and a world too quick to judge what it couldn't understand. Many of the details in this episode come directly from Natascha Kampusch herself, through her interviews and her memoir, 3096 Days, where she bravely recounts her years in captivity and the path to her survival. Natascha Kampusch was born on February 17, 1988, in Vienna, to Brigitta Sirny and Ludwig Koch. Natascha is the youngest in the family. She had two older sisters from her mother's previous marriage, and, as the baby of the household, she was often the center of attention. Her early childhood was filled with joyful memories, skiing trips with her parents, time spent with her grandmother, and the carefree happiness that comes with being a well-loved little girl. But as she grew older, things began to change. Her parents separated during her early years, and although both remained in her life, Natascha began moving between two homes, witnessing the emotional weight of their conflict and the tension that followed. She was a quiet, observant child, and the instability around her began to leave its mark. Life in the working-class outskirts of Vienna wasn't always easy. Her neighborhood was a mix of struggle and survival, where poverty, addiction, and isolation shaped the environment around her. Even at a young age, Natascha became familiar with the struggles some adults carried. From conspiracy theories to mental health issues, she witnessed it all in her neighborhood, all of which added to a growing sense of unease. At home, the warmth of early childhood gave way to more difficult days. There were moments of discipline and disconnect. By the age of 10, Natascha was experiencing loneliness, emotional pain, and signs of depression. She began eating compulsively and, at times, felt invisible. On the morning of March 2nd, 1998, as she walked to school after returning home from a holiday with her father, Natascha was carrying more than just her backpack. Her thoughts were still heavy from the previous night. She was late home after this vacation, through none of her fault, and her mum snapped at her, leading to a small argument. Natascha understood her mum's anger was aimed at her father, but being taken on her made her upset. She felt powerless. Walking to school, a million thoughts were going through Natascha's mind. She felt misunderstood, unheard, and overwhelmed. In her memoir, she describes that moment with haunting honesty, imagining what it would be like if she disappeared, and if that would finally make the world take notice. And that's when she saw the white van. As Natascha walked to school that morning, something made her look up. She wasn't sure what it was. Maybe a sound, a movement in the quiet street, a little bird. That's when she saw it. A white delivery van, parked awkwardly along the right-hand side of the road, and in this peaceful residential area, it looked strangely out of place. Standing beside the van was a man. He was lean, not particularly tall, and appeared to be in his 20s. He kept glancing around in an uneasy, almost aimless way, like he was waiting for something, but didn't know what. Natascha slowed her steps. Something didn't feel right. A deep, instinctive fear crept in, the kind that raises the hairs on the back of your neck. She thought about crossing the street. Her mind was racing with warnings she'd heard before. Don't talk to strangers. Don't go near unknown cars. Be careful. Stay alert. All the terrifying stories she'd seen on the news flashed through her head about girls who disappeared. But she was just 10 years old, caught between fear and the desire to prove she was brave. And so, she silenced that voice inside her. She kept walking. After all, what could possibly happen? And yet, in a matter of seconds, as she was passing by, the worst did happen. He dragged her into his van and disappeared into the streets of Vienna. Once inside the van, Natascha was stunned and went silent for only a moment. But then, she started asking questions. What size shoe do you wear? That was the very first thing she said to her kidnapper. She then fired off questions, one after another, which might seem like a strange reaction for a 10-year-old in such a terrifying moment. But Natascha later explained that she'd seen episodes on TV on Austria versions of Crime Watch, and she remembered something. If you're ever taken, try to gather as much information as you can. It was an act of courage, and it was also a child's way of trying to understand the unthinkable. Her kidnapper didn't answer her questions. Instead, he yelled at her and told her to be quiet. He then drove Natascha to some woods nearby. She started panicking. All she could think about was the news about a few young girls in Austria being molested by an organized gang, something she'd seen in the press and on TV. In that moment, she asked him another question. Are you going to molest me? Question to which he finally replied with, You're too young for that. I would never do that. He then started mumbling, I'll turn you over and then I'll have nothing more to do with you. We'll never see each other again, he said, and he kept repeating that over and over. That undoubtedly scared Natascha. But as they kept waiting, nothing happened. No one came. He then drove her out of Vienna to a quiet suburb called Strasshof. There, behind the walls of an ordinary home, he'd spent years preparing for what he planned to do. Placing a blanket over her head, he then carried her through his garage and opened a hidden trapdoor. What lay beneath was something out of a nightmare. To reach the room, you had to go down a staircase, pass through a hollowed-out concrete wall, crawl through a small metal hatch concealed behind a cupboard. This wasn't only a passage designed to be invisible, but it was designed to be nearly impossible to escape. At the end of it, it was a tiny windowless room, measuring only 5 by 5 meters, bare, soundproof, and constantly filled with the dull hum of a plastic ventilator fan. This sounds completely nightmarish. In that small room is where he placed Natascha on the floor and left. The room was completely dark. Beneath her, she could only feel the cold floor, counting seconds, trying to concentrate her mind to something. But slowly, Natascha was starting to understand the gravity of her situation. When he finally returned and lit up the room, Natascha could see what will turn to be her home for the next 8 years. A windowless small room, stuffy, with a pallet frame bed and a small toilet and sink. Her captor ordered her to stand at some distance from him whilst he was working on setting the pallet bed. His voice now trying to be gentle, reassuring, telling Natascha everything will be fine. All will be fine if she will do what he tells her to do. I cannot even comprehend the terror that must have gone through her mind. After some time, Natascha started to plead with him to let her go. She won't tell anyone. She promised and promised, but it was too late. Her captor had no plans to let her go. Natascha wanted to keep her school bag, the only thing that reminded her of now her old life, but her captor refused to let her keep it. You could have a hidden transmitter, he told her. You could use it to call for help. It was a strange, paranoid statement. A 10-year-old with a transmitter in her backpack? Of course not. But Natascha didn't argue. She'd already learned something at her young age. Sometimes, grown-ups say things that make no sense, and it's safer not to ask why. This sudden shift in personality scared her. She knew she had to be cautious. As an adult, Natascha Kampusch often reflected on how she managed to survive that first night. The fear was incredibly overwhelming, would be enough to break anyone. But the human mind, she would later say, has remarkable ways of coping. In situations of extreme stress and fear, sometimes it withdraws and it tries to adapt. It tricks itself into survival. In that moment, her mind did something extraordinary. It regressed. The 10-year-old girl psychologically retreated to the mindset of a much younger child, 4, maybe 5. A child who, in that moment, accepted the world without a question, who even sought comfort in routine and illusion. A child who could now endure what logic couldn't explain. When her captor returned to the cellar that evening, Natascha didn't resist. She didn't ask any more questions. She didn't plead. Instead, she asked him to stay with her, to put her to bed and to tell her a bedtime story. She even asked for a kiss on the forehead, something her mother used to do each night before gently closing the door. And her captor, he complied. He told her a story about the princess and the pea. He tucked her into bed, kissed her goodnight. He even left the light on. For a fleeting moment, the illusion held for Natascha. It felt almost like she was back in her bedroom, like he was almost safe. But when the door shut behind him, the illusion bubble burst and reality returned, stark and inescapable. That night, Natascha didn't sleep at all. As the news that Natascha Kampusch vanished from the streets of Vienna erupted, a massive search operation was launched. Hundreds of officers scoured the city looking for her. Helicopters circled overhead. Dogs tracked any possible scent. At home, the public was gripped with fear, and suspicions fell quickly in every direction, including her own mother, Brigitta Cerny. Theories ranged from abduction by a trafficking ring to horrifying rumors of organ theft. When a child reporting seeing Natascha forced into a white van, police investigated nearly 800 vehicles. One of those vehicles searched belonged to her kidnapper. When police first arrived at Wolfgang Priklopje house to follow up on a tip, they asked about the van. He calmly told them he'd been home all day when Natascha disappeared. And, unbelievably, that was enough. They didn't search the van. They didn't even press further. I am just wondering, was it because he didn't look dangerous? He didn't live in a squalor or in a rundown shack? He was just another man in the suburbs with a tidy home and a quiet demeanor. And while police stood outside, satisfied with the surface-level answers, Natascha was inside, trapped in total darkness beneath their feet, in a hidden underground cellar. Authorities even expanded the search to Hungary, where Natascha and her dad just returned from holiday. But in the end, no leads came. And with each month passing, the leads were running cold. The search was slowing down, and every hope Natascha had in being found was fading away. It wouldn't be until a full decade later, 2 long years after Natascha's escape, and in the midst of a growing scandal over police missteps and a potential cover-up, that the truth would finally come to light. A second opportunity to rescue her had presented itself a decade earlier. On April 14, in 1998, Vienna police made a public witness report. A delivery van with darkened windows has been spotted near Natascha's council estate on the morning of her abduction. The van license was registered to Gensendorf, the very district where Strasshof was located. A member of Vienna Canine Police Unit had called in with a tip, and this wasn't a vague one. It named a specific individual, a man known to live in Strasshof, Nordbahn area, a loner who owned a white van with dark windows. He reportedly lived with his mother, worked for Siemens, and may have possessed weapons. More alarmingly, was said to have a disturbed interest in children. The caller described him as approximately 35 years old, with blonde hair, standing around 180 centimeters tall. That man was Wolfgang Priklopje. To think they were so close to finding her twice. It's unclear why this tip wasn't followed. Surely they could have tracked him down using these details. But as Natascha sat alone in the dark, trapped in a makeshift cellar beneath her captor's home, that crucial lead was quietly set aside. It was never followed. For the first 6 months, Natascha never left the cellar. In these early days of captivity, their dynamic was strangely stable as things could be between one person who is locked in a hidden dungeon by another. At first, he brought her small luxuries like fancy croissants, toys, and books. He would even record TV shows and brought her a Walkman and a computer. Natascha was completely dependent to him and eager to keep the peace. It was survival. Natascha later said, "The idea that someone couldn't just make me disappear so easily, that hope carried me through those endless hours underground." But after some time, the gravity of her situation hit her hard, and she fell into a deep depression. That was when he finally allowed her to leave the cellar to take a bath. Over time, his strange kindness began to erode. There were no more gifts, no more toys, just random favors like mouthwash or Scotch tape. And yet, she was grateful. Even orange juice felt like a treasure. Then came the delusions, and Natascha started experiencing more and more his dark side. He would threaten her, keep her in constant fear. He even told her he was an Egyptian god. And all was Natascha left to do is play along enough to stay safe. Let him believe it. She started reframing everything what was happening to her to be able to cope. When he bathed her, she imagined it was a spa. When he brought her food, she told herself it was a gentleman's gesture. But inside, she always felt the weight of this humiliation. As she grew older, Natascha's compliance faded. She began to resist him, refusing to call him maestro, mocking his demands with silence. Natascha was just trying to do anything she could not to lose her identity, her free will. But suddenly, everything turned even darker as he started responding with violence. The beatings became very frequent. He would punish her for anything and everything. The food became scarce. He would often withhold it as a form of punishment. The light in her cellar would be removed in retaliation. He even built an intercom system so he could scream at her throughout the night from upstairs. He was so obsessed with cleanliness, and he made her clean the house for hours on end, half naked, always silent unless spoken to, because always disobedience meant punishment. Natascha chose not to go into detail about the sexual abuse in her memoir, and here on ClueTrail, we respect that decision. While the media often speculated, we won't repeat any of those claims. What Natascha did share was that even in the most disturbing moments, when she was tied to him in his bed, her captor seemed more consumed with domination and control than with intimacy. For him, it was always about power and control, never connection. Her turning point came early on in her captivity at age 12. She realized she was alone without anyone to save her, and she imagined her future self, 18 years old, speaking to her from a vision. That older self promised to come back for her, urging her to survive, to keep fighting, and to escape. That promise carried her through 6 more years of captivity. Through those years of captivity, Natascha experienced the worst in humanity. This led to suicide attempts. Once she used a knitting needle to try to end her pain, and the beatings kept going. There were nights when the only way to stop a beating was to strike herself again and again until he asked her to stop. And in all this terror, then there will be strange, confusing moments of warmth too, He would often bring small gifts. He would apologize, as all this could hide her many wounds on her body and the psychological terror she was going through. What a monster. He had a goal. He envisioned her as a perfect blonde-haired companion, someone devoted, submissive. She was made to dye her hair, humiliated her, beat her endlessly. He would withhold food to the point of starvation. She was physically frail, but still forced to work. She was doing everything from him: cleaning, cooking, help him renovate his house and some other flats as well. Her days were long, exhausting, and always filled with fear and humiliation. But through all this, she now began to look forward to the weekends. That was when he locked her back in the cellar. Because during those weekends, his mother, who lived nearby, would visit. She would stay upstairs, completely unaware of what lay beneath the floorboards. Now, the cellar, once a prison, had become Natascha's only refuge. His fantasy in creating a life together didn't end to just the confinements of the house. He took her skiing, although she was barely able to stand from exhaustion and starvation and all the beatings. He would take her to the chemist, hardware stores. He would even allow her to swim in the neighbor's pool when they were away and he was house-sitting. 13 times he took her out in public. She met strangers, even a police officer, but she said nothing. By then, the years of manipulation and fear had taken hold of her. He had convinced her the world was dangerous, that her parents had abandoned her, that he had saved her. It was all part of his delusion, an entire world built for two, with him as the god and her as the captive believer. Then she turned 18. And one day, whilst they were working in the garage, another day of being humiliated, beaten, and starved, she looked him in the eye and said, "You have brought a situation upon us in which only one of us can make it through alive. I am really grateful to you for not killing me and for taking such good care of me. This is very nice of you. But you can't force me to stay with you. I am my own person with my own needs. This situation must come to an end." She closed her eyes, expecting, once more, the worst. But this time it didn't come. No rage, no beating. When she opened her eyes, she saw something that surprised her. She saw defeat. He looked at her with sadness, powerless. Natascha then knew she had survived him. A few weeks after this final confrontation, he made an uncharacteristic mistake. He left her alone in the garden. The day of August 23rd, 2006, began like so many others. That morning, Natascha was helping him with transit routes from one of his rental flats to nearby stations. Information he planned to include in a property advertisement. It was routine, familiar. Nothing seemed out of place. Just before noon, they stepped into the garden to pick the last of the strawberries that had crept over from the neighbor's patch. A short while later, he led her to the small garden hut at the back of the property. Wolfgang was always meticulous about security, locking the garden every time, even if he was only stepping away for only a few minutes. The same white van he had used to abduct her years ago now sat between the hut and the gate. It was scheduled to be picked up within days and he needed it cleaned. He fetched a vacuum cleaner and instructed her to clean its interior. As Natascha worked inside the van, his phone suddenly rang. He stepped back a few paces, one hand covering his ear, and said twice, "Excuse me, please?" Natascha caught fragments of the conversation. He had something to do with one of his rental flats. He sounded elated. Still speaking, he turned away from the van and wandered off towards the pool. And in that moment, she was alone. For the first time in more than 8 years, the man who had imprisoned her was no longer watching. She froze at first, standing in front of the van, the vacuum cleaner still in her hand. A wave of paralysis spread through her limbs. Her mind raced with chaos, images flashing like lightning. Her captor, discovering she was gone, chasing her, dragging her back, the possibility of being killed. Then, her survival instinct kicked in. With sudden, almost supernatural strength, she dropped the vacuum and ran. The garden gate, usually locked, stood open. She bolted through it, hesitating just for a moment. Left or right? Where were the railway tracks? She was certain she would hear him behind her. She didn't look back. She didn't care. Because she knew anything was better than going back to that cellar, back to that life. She kept running, her mind racing. She was going to head towards the train track and just end it all. And then, when she saw 3 people on the street, she rushed towards them, pleading for help. But they brushed her off, claiming they had no phone. But also, in that moment, she knew one thing for certain. She wanted to leave. She didn't want to end it all. Determined, she climbed over a fence and ran into a garden. She rang the bell and finally a woman appeared in the window. Natascha begged her to call the police, telling her she's been abducted and that her name is Natascha Kampusch. The woman, startled and suspicious, asked why she was there. But Natascha stood firm and insisted on calling the police. That day, she finally made it out. Natascha made it to the police station and slowly started recounting all that happened to her for 8 years. All the horrid details. Everything. She had only one request, that no one talks with the press. As you see, by that point, the news that Natascha Kampusch was found was all over the media. Sadly, the police will once more let Natascha down, as the next day, at the pressure of all the media, the police officers who were with her in the room talked about the details. Meanwhile, Wolfgang Priklopier, knowing his secret was about to unravel, confessed everything to his friend during a 3-hour drive around Vienna looking for Natascha. "I am a kidnapper and a rapist," he told him. Shortly after, he stepped in front of a train. At the police headquarters, after more than 8 years in captivity, Natascha Kampusch was finally reunited with her family. She recognized her mother the moment she walked through the door. It had been 8 years since that March morning when she left their apartment without saying goodbye. Now, her mother stood before her, looking nearly unchanged. Her mother sobbed, laughed, and cried all at once as she rushed forward and wrapped her arms around her daughter. The closeness felt almost dizzying for Natascha. After so many years without any true human affection, the embrace overwhelmed her. Behind her mother stood her sisters. They broke in tears, rushing forward to join the reunion. And a short while later, her father arrived. He pulled her into a hug. After years of darkness, fear, and isolation, Natascha was home. When Natascha Kampusch escaped, Austria breathed a sigh of relief. A missing child was found alive. This was something rare, almost unheard of, but really quickly turned into fascination, and then into something far more toxic. In the days that followed, the world rushed to help Natascha. Some were kind, others even disturbing. One offer read, "Although I'm married, I'm sure we can find an arrangement." What a sicko. But when Natascha didn't fit the image of a fragile, broken victim, many turned against her. They expected her to crumble, but she always spoke calmly. She even tried to explain what survival had really looked for her, and that angered people. They immediately labeled her with Stockholm Syndrome. But as Natascha later said, adapting to your kidnapper isn't a syndrome, it's survival. Despite the backlash, she reclaimed some power. She bought the very house in Strasshof where she had been imprisoned, not as a momentum to her pain, but to ensure it didn't become a shrine for those fascinated by horror. In the years that followed, she tried many things: hosting a talk show, writing, considering careers as psychologist, goldsmith, and even shoemaker. She never wanted the fame that came from her trauma. But she found herself navigating life under constant scrutiny, and yet she continued forward. Natascha often tried to understand her captor's psyche, not to justify it, but to reclaim her own agency. "He trusted me," she said. "He shared his ideas and visions. And even though they were sick, I saw them all." Today, Natascha lives a private life. She has written books, given interviews on her own terms, and advocates for victims' rights, reminding the world that survival isn't about fitting a specific narrative. It's about enduring, and at the end, reclaiming your story. To close today's episode, I'd like to read a final passage from Natascha Kampusch's memoir, a reflection written 4 years after her escape. "In writing this account, I have tried to close the book on the so far longest and darkest chapter of my life. I am deeply relieved that I have found words for all that is unspeakable and contradictory. Seeing it in front of me, black and white, helps me look into the future with confidence, because what I have experienced also gives me strength. I survived my imprisonment in my dungeon, freed myself, and remained intact. I know I can master life and freedom as well. And this freedom begins now, 4 years after 23rd of August 2006. Only now I can put the past behind me with these pages and truly say, I am free."